Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. What are you doing up here? What's going on? I am so thrilled to be talking to my brother about Silver Screen Fiend. Can I take this thing off? Because I like to work the crowd, you know? I don't like to be... But this is such an amazing book, and we are so... I've read it like 3 times, and we're all so proud of him for have written it. What? I'm getting to you. I'm going to ask Pat a few questions, then I'll have him read from the book a little bit, then we'll take questions from all of you guys. So, without further ado, Alice, would you like to introduce the man of the hour, please? Into the mic? Just talking to the mic. Oh, it's not on. There you go.
I know you guys all know this book, but this is my dad's book.
Just talking to just introduce Patton. Introduce Daddy.
Dad.
Say, here comes Daddy.
This is Daddy's book.
Oh, God. This was so much better in rehearsal. I'm sorry. Please welcome Patton Oswalt. Patton, come on down. Come on down. He lost the Grammy last night to Weird Al Yankovic, but he's still here tonight, folks. That's professionalism, okay? Grammy-losing artist, Patton Oswalt. And thanks for coming in, everyone. That's our show.
That was it. That was
walk down
in my contract. I'm descending the stairs. That's it. And I'm out.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Alice. What are you going to do now? Are you going to hang here? Oh dear, this is going to be fun.
It's turning into a Kathy Lee Gifford thing. Why don't you come here?
Exactly.
I don't want to exploit my daughter that badly. Okay. Why don't you?
Wait a second.
Wow, it's like an animal segment on the old Tonight Show. Hang on.
Oh, what's this dripping down my shoulder, Patton?
Alice, come here. Go see mommy.
Like Jay Leno up here.
Lord, wow.
Jesus.
I'm sorry.
Okay, there he goes.
Go over to see.
Yeah, and now the music of Reba McEntire.
I know, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, now she's got the fever. Oh, boy.
She's got to, yeah.
Take her to the Comedy Store, have her do a set. Quick drop in. I got a crown on my upper tooth today, the aftermath of a root canal, so I'm on some very nice Tylenol 3 with codeine.
You like that?
So there could be some startling revelations this evening. I don't know.
What was your inspiration?
Oh, wow. Please don't play with perspective. Yeah, exactly. Don't all start leaning off to the side or anything like that. That's going to freak me out.
Patton, this is your second book. This book seems much more personal, introspective.
Could you sound less sincere? Literally, you sound...
This is stuff we talked about at House of Pies a half hour ago, and we're just,
You chose the daytime... You chose the late-night infomercial inflection.
I watched 20 episodes of James Lipton to get this cadence, okay? Just please go along with me, okay?
All right, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Was this book more difficult to write than your first one, Zombie? Because it talks about your addiction to film and...
It was easier to write because I had written the first book. Like, in other words, I had gotten the act of writing a book behind me, so I knew that I could write a book. When I wrote the first one, I had no idea. I had said, yeah, sure, I'll write a book. They had approached me. But then I had some friends who had contracts to write books, and they just didn't finish them. I didn't know it was so hard. And so that part was easy. The writing it, I got to complete a book, I could do that. But the writing it all memoir. There wasn't any like clever postmodern kind of comedy stuff to fall back on. It was all just, this is my point of view. This is what I went through. That made me really nervous because there was that. Does anyone want to hear what I have to say? I don't know if it
was this in you for a long time to get this out. This whole addiction thing to film you had. If you haven't read the book yet, it's all about he went through this decade-long period where he was obsessed with going to movies.
Yeah.
Well,
it was something that really, it always kind of gnawed at me and stayed in my head for years of, I did some pretty kind of, not terrible things, but some really kind of bad, damagey personal stuff because I was way more focused on, I got to go see a movie rather than go engage with another person, or I got to go check this movie off in my list of movies I need to see rather than deal with this aspect of my personality or my career. But it took a few years of living a life and getting married and becoming a dad, and then looking back on the person that I was during this time could not have handled raising her.
This little munchkin. Yeah.
So I feel awful. I feel like I brought a prop. Like this is look. This is in no way a Kurosawa film festival, but it's close, isn't it? Right, gentlemen. It's but yeah. So there was that. How did I just went back and wanted to look at how did I pull myself out of being basically a non-person. I just was not I forgot who said this phrase, but I think at the time I was becoming a really good comedian. I was becoming an okay writer, but I was a D- human being.
Wow.
And I know a lot of, and we all know people like that who are A+ at their professions or their art, but they are D- at being people. And I couldn't sustain it, so I wanted to look back and go, okay, how did I stay in there for so long?
Well, to give these people perspective, what's the most amount of films you've ever seen in 1 year?
In 1 year, just in theaters, I saw 261 films. That's just in theaters. That's not counting watching them on TV, watching DVDs. That was just going to theaters and checking them off and making lists. And it was. That's.
But you went to not only these great classic films at the New Beverly or the New Art. You would go to the new stuff like Freddy Got Fingered, and that's a weird juxtaposition. How do you do that?
Don't remember that title. Yeah. I went to I would go to see The Seventh Seal, and then on the same night I would go to the Beverly Connection 8 and go see Val Kilmer in The Saint, or I'd go see Judge Dredd. Or when I went and saw The Saint, it's a Friday night in the late 90s. I'm young. I'm still relatively good looking. I'm living in L.A. I'm on a TV show. I could be out doing things.
Yeah.
And I'm spending my Friday night because it's a new movie. I got to go see The Saint. And I remember it was me and 7 other people, and it didn't even dawn on me then. Like looking back, I'm like, that is just sad. Like if you could do a montage all around the city that evening, you would have seen, some up-and-coming band doing a show, an amazing party happening, comedians I know doing sets, and then you cut to me inside the Beverly Connection 8, me with 7 other lonely people just watching The Saint at like 7:30, just kind of going, this isn't that good. It's weird. It's very strange. And then I just remember when I was leaving, there used to be those long halls you would come out of the multiplex, and there was this gigantic, he must have been like 6'5", black guy, just huge. And I don't know if he was on drugs or something, but everyone that walked by him, he would go, "It's a comic book come to life." He would scream at everyone leaving The Saint, and I just kept thinking, this is either the worst marketing technique because I know that Robert Evans produced The Saint, so I was like, maybe him in some kind of cocaine fever, he was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the biggest black guy we can find. We're going to have him stand outside the theater and remind people that it's a comic book come to life. And that's going to start a movement. They're not going to understand what it's about, but they'll each tell 2 friends. And let me tell you something, baby. Next week, we'll be on top of the box office. And then he passed out or something like that. So
one of my my favorite things about this book is that not only do you have a photographic memory of every film you saw, believe me, he writes about all of them, but also you mentioned that you know details about every experience of going to films. Like, not only do you remember going to see Ace in the Hole at the New Beverly, you remember that you got a medium popcorn. You remember that.
Because
you remember everything about that, which is amazing. I do the same thing.
Well, taste and smell are really good, like, signposts for memory, and for some reason I can remember very clearly going into that lobby and getting a medium popcorn, no salt, red vines, and Sprite, and those three tastes I've always associated
with Kirk Douglas.
With seeing, with Kirk Douglas. I imagine that's what the man tastes like.
You think so?
If I ever made out with him, that's what I would taste in my mind. So.
Oh, I love when you mentioned going to see. Oh my God, I can't think of that film. But with Peter Sellers comes out of Strangelove, and the first time he comes on stage, everyone in the theater applauds. Like that, remember that? Yeah.
Because it was that great moment of, if you ever see Dr. Strangelove, his first shot, he's backing himself up in his wheelchair from the table and speaking. And when I saw it at the New Beverly, the entire theater just exploded, because it was one of those. That's a performance that's just been stolen from and imitated and done in lesser and it was that moment of, I'm actually back. I'm seeing the source of this thing. That's a big deal. It's like watching a Bo Diddley guitar solo, and in your mind you see all the people that stole from, but you're like, I'm at the source of this.
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing.
It's memorable, yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, remember when you and I saw The Godfather at the Chinese theater? They had it come out again on 35 millimeter. And there's a scene where Tom Hagen goes to California to negotiate with the producer, and there's this great shot of like the old Chinese theater from back in 1960, and the entire theater erupted in applause.
We're
when
inside
they showed
of that.
Yeah. It was like, that's great. That's great. Exactly.
That's where we are inside of. Yes, I know. You're in The Godfather. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm in The Godfather. Okay, great. This isn't the Rocky Horror Picture Show, guys. Just
Spaghetti
calm
Factory.
down.
This is exactly like they.
Yeah. I went to see, when they re-released Grease, the sing-along version in the late '90s. I went and saw it. With a bunch of friends, it was all like, let's just go see Grease, whatever. And then halfway through, it was like all these very, unshaven alt comedian, alt musician guys all kind of going, hopelessly, I know the words. Like, we knew the words to all these songs. Like, how do I know all these words? Because that had burned itself into our heads when we were 8.
Yeah.
So we're all going, there was things I could do. You too? Okay. So it was very strange.
Well, for as cathartic as writing this stuff about your film addiction was it also, there's a great section on here when you, as a comedian, you come out from D.C., you go to the Holy City Zoo in San Francisco, and you write about the first time you perform at the Holy City Zoo, which is this famous club in San Francisco, and you didn't go too well.
Well, here's what happened. It was, and I think a lot of you have experienced this on different levels in whatever you've pursued, writing or acting or something. I had started doing comedy in 1988. I got pretty good at it. I did it for 4 years. So now in 1992, I've moved to San Francisco from the East Coast, and in my mind, I'm pretty good. I'm good at what I do. I'm starting to headline. I'm this new gunslinger in town. I'm going to blow these people away. I've only got to do 7 minutes at this iconic club called the Holy City Zoo, which is the launching pad of all these really, really, it was a very important room if you're a comedian. So I go up. I've only got to do 7 minutes. I do all my A stuff from the road, and it works on the road because, of course, it does. Because I'm in clubs like Sir Laughs a Lot. Literally, there was a club called Sir Laughs a Lot in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, doing this awful, hacky, awful stuff. And I just ate it because the room was all comedians. In the room that night was Greg Proops, Margaret Cho, Jeremy Kramer, Blaine Capatch, Greg Barrett, all these amazing comedians, and all they were interested in was, are you pushing the envelope? Are you doing something new? And here I am. I had learned how to distinguish. I'm going to quote from the play Amadeus. I'd learned to be distinguished by people who didn't know how to distinguish. It was all just very easy hacks up. So then I went across the street to this restaurant called Taiwan, which is still there. Holy City Zoo is not. And I I ate fried rice, and I tore all the pages out of my notebook, and then I just wrote, it was May 5th, so I wrote May 6th, 1992 on the top of a blank page and just started writing new jokes. So I was like, I can't do any of my stuff.
Comedians are like that. You guys remember the beatdowns you take on stage more than the successes.
You have to, because if you didn't remember the beatdowns, you would have this completely useless, false sense of your own indestructibility. I'm telling you, a comedian doesn't become a comedian until they are humiliated on stage. I'm not saying I'm like going, oh, I can't wait for them to eat it really hard. But it is that thing of because you need to go through complete humiliation and wake up the next day and go, oh, the world didn't end. That didn't matter.
Yeah.
And then you're free to do whatever you want. I remember I was talking to Brad Bird, and we were going off about the Star Wars movies and what we liked and what we didn't like in them. And I said, well, I loved... I'm one of the people that I really liked Return of the Jedi, except that once they get to the teddy bear planet, I'm done. Like, and he's like, he goes, well, I had way more problems than that. And he said, and this ties back to being a comedian, he goes, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker gets this psychic fax, my friends are in trouble, and he tells Yoda, I gotta go, I gotta help him, and Yoda goes, you gotta stay here, don't do that. And he's like, no, you're wrong, I'm the hero, I'm gonna help. That's what a hero does. And he leaves, and he completely fails. Not only does he get his ass kicked, his friends get in worse trouble because of him. He gets his hand cut off. Like, he couldn't be less the hero at the end of that movie. And then at the beginning of Return of the Jedi, Brad was saying he's suddenly just this dark, totally cool, like Neo from the Matrix type. Before there was Neo, he can just... And he's like, the movie should have started with Luke back in the swamp with his new robot hand,
eating
saying,
crow, and just like...
We're just going, Yoda, you told me not to go, and I left, and this happened, now my friends are in worse trouble, I completely failed. And then Yoda would have gone, now you're a Jedi. Like, now you've made it.
Yeah.
Because you've gotten past the humiliation, now you're free to do it, and it's that kind of thing. So that was my Cloud City of Bespin moment, the Holy City Zoo. That's what I had my head cut off and fell down the shaft. Was rescued by Lando Calrissian, who... Hey,
Alice, are you listening to all this? Are you getting all this? This is all good stuff.
She's like, I have no father!
I got to ask you, because this whole thing is about all your film experience takes place in the New Beverly, and it's now owned by Quentin Tarantino. Since this book has come out, has he read this book? Does he gotten any feedback?
I don't know. I mean, I know that his assistant... I mean, he's shooting a movie, so I can't go, have you read my book, dude? I'm very sensitive
but
to...
he would really love this book, though. I'm curious if
I know he has a copy, but he'll let me know when he's read it. I just, again, I'm just very sensitive to, when someone is working on something, I just don't bother them until they're done.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to pile anything else on the pile. So he's making a movie right now. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
If you get a chance during the 4 hours sleep you're getting a day, maybe check out my book. I know you're doing this movie that put your whole heart and soul in, but check out my book. While you're making... Put your movie... Tell you what. Take 2 days off filming, send everyone home, read my book.
And read a blog about it, please.
Yeah.
In keeping with the spirit of films, I'm going to ask you a lightning round questions of all your favorite stuff.
Here we go.
And then we'll do some Q&A. Favorite Hammer film? First of all, tell them what Hammer films are.
Hammer films in the 90s. So a lot of you know what this is. In the 60s and 70s, Hammer Studios in Britain kind of revived horror movies, did Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman movie. They just added a lot of blood and a lot of big British bosoms, and it was great, and everyone loved it, and it made stars of Christopher Lee. And they just have a certain look because they had no money, so they would kind of shoot around the same castle all the time. Like, hey, Frankenstein's lab looks a lot like Dracula's castle. Yeah, don't worry about that. But the best one of the lot is called Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. It's a genuinely great film. Beyond it being a Frankenstein movie, it's this really great movie about an obsessive sociopath who is it's weirdly it's a lot like The Social Network, except he's cutting people up and restitching them into monsters. But Peter Cushing should have gotten an Academy Award nomination. It's amazing. Favorite
American international film?
Oh boy,
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's a lot of Roger Corman stuff. So.
I know. American International movie. Death Race 2000.
Oh yeah.
Is and still really holds up. It's really funny and so kind of in a very clumsy way. Anticipated a lot of the social media reality show kind of stuff that's going on now.
Favorite Australian film?
The first thing I want to say is Road Warrior, but
Chopper,
or you know what? It's a tie between Chopper, which is one of the best crime films ever made, and Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is one of the most disturbing. This movie's going to stay with you for a long time.
Favorite?
Wait a minute.
Oh dear, here we go.
It's a tie between Picnic at Hanging Rock and Wake and Fright.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite stand-up film?
Film about stand-up?
No, it's just like Richard Pryor live in concert.
Richard Pryor live in concert is the best stand-up film.
Okay.
That's the best one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scorsese film.
Goodfellas.
Polanski.
Polanski. Oh.
Ooh.
Slightly edging out Rosemary's Baby is Chinatown.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I always
just a little.
You don't like Knife in the Water? I like
Knife in the Water, but but Chinatown I've watched. I've watched it like 18 times. It's so good.
Favorite Bruce Dern film? Not Nebraska.
Oh, not Nebraska. I think he's amazing in a movie called The Driver. He plays this. He's a kind of this mob boss crime figure. Him and Ryan O'Neal. He's just fantastic.
Wow.
Boy, that's a real sad song. But sad songs ain't selling this year. It's like, he's
good in The Laughing Policeman too.
Yeah, he's good in that. But that's more of I consider that a Math Out.
That's
film.
a Math Out film. Yeah. That was my next one. Favorite Math Out film. That was the next one.
Oh, Math Out film. Oh, Charlie Varick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Even better than Taking a Pelham on Tutor.
Really?
I know, but Charlie Varick, because he has to outwit he's got to outwit Joe Don Baker and
that's true.
And all these big badasses, and he's just this kind of shoulder stoop chewing gum. I guess I gotta try to not get killed. I still
have a soft spot for Bad News Bears. He's so good in that movie.
Well, that movie is much one of the best sports films ever, and especially about fathers and sons and parenting. It's incredible. I think I tweeted the other day, the world comes down to people who were raised by the Walter Matthau character in Bad News Bears and people who were raised by the Vic Morrow character in Bad News Bears.
Oh, my God, yeah.
That's the world we live in. So.
Here's a tricky one. Favorite M. Emmett Walsh film?
Well, okay, first off, there's not really an M. Emmett Walsh movie.
Performance.
There's movies he
favorite
shows
M. Emmett
up
Walsh
in.
performance.
All right. I think he's great in... Huh?
Blood Simple, yeah.
Blood Simple, yeah. I know. I was going to say that, but you know what? He's amazing in a movie called Straight Time. Yeah. He is so... There's a scene where he gets... Dustin Hoffman just tunes him up. Because he's and it's so satisfying because he plays such a sleaze. And you're just like, yes. Good. Somebody awful got their just desserts.
Wow. Favorite Burt Reynolds film? He made a lot of great films back then.
He really, back in the day, yeah. I still think The Longest Yard is amazing.
Yeah.
Just for pure entertainment. Smoking the Bandit's real. I just rewatched that. You should rewatch that sometime. There's some weird passages in there where he and Sally Field are talking about Broadway musicals and and he wears a lot of turquoise and there's a scene when he's negotiating his fee with Paul Williams and Pat McCormick. I don't know why I know this, but I was watching it on HD TV. He is so glaringly not wearing underwear and has the biggest. But you can if you watch it on HGTV, you're like, oh my God, it is the most glaring 70s camel toe. You're just like, whoa, no, I'm sorry, men, it's a moose knuckle. It's the most glaring 70s moose knuckle you've ever seen.
Last question.
Right.
If Silver Screen Fiend is ever adapted, who is going to play you? Who do you want to play you?
I think I've said this before. I would love it if there was a really experimental filmmaker that would cast like CCH Pounder as me, and nobody in the movie references that she's this amazing black female actress, and she's doing lines like, "Look, I know I'm just this fat nerd that likes movies, but and everyone's just like, get out of here!" They just never reference that.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, also because I just think she's such an amazing actress. I would just love to see her, because she's one of those actors that. It's like when
she always plays a judge, doesn't she? She always plays a judge.
When they would have like Ian McKellen read instructions on how to change a flat tire in this, like, it made it amazing.
Yeah.
I almost bet she could do a scene where there's a monologue where she's arguing about what's wrong with the Star Wars prequels, and she would just make it so compelling. You'd be like, I got to go re-see those movies.
If she did the Parks and Recreation monologue with Star Wars, she would be amazing. And she would kill that. You think
she
so?
would.
Yeah, that'd be a great little
people would
one-act
forget
play.
that I ever did it if she did it.
That'd be a great little one-act play. Dude. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about Lawrence Tierney, but in lieu of that, I'm going to have you read this little section of the book about your Lawrence Tierney experience at the New Beverly, and then we'll take some questions.
Is Alice still in the room? Because there's some spicy language in this. Okay. Well, I'll just bleep it, and you'll get it in context.
Yeah.
All right. This is when, I had gone into the, I know. Okay. Oh, here we go. I was watching Citizen Kane for what had to have been the 10th time so far. The first time I'd seen it was on a tiny TV screen in a college dorm room. Now, I was in a comfortably neglected, sad spring seat in the back row of the New Beverly, watching Orson Welles' debut and, in a way, swan song unfold. Citizen Kane is more panoramic than most widescreen movies in its literal and figurative depths. I was teasing out more of its riddles, the way people will return again and again to Ulysses or The Rock 2. Not the movie, the R.A. Rachmaninoff, right? Or The Night Cafe. So we were 15 minutes into the movie. Citizen Kane is structured in so many interdependent flashbacks that even now, having seen it close to 20 times, I couldn't tell you what was happening at that point in its story. All I know is I was rapt. The theater and world around me were gone. I was watching Charles Foster Kane chew and bully his way to the top of a mountain he was about to go tumbling down the other side of. And he was going to drain so much love and patience and charity out of everyone he knew in the ascent that none of them would have the energy to run around the other side of that mountain to catch him when he plummeted. You know what's going to happen every single time you see it, but it's such a sweet ride. It's like body surfing a wave that you know is going to send you belly first into abrasive sand. Still, you can never resist the swell when you feel it rise. But there was noise behind me. A rumbling, human but maybe not human gurgle and bark. Someone was sitting down 15 minutes into Citizen Kane, and they were talking to no one. Out loud. Damn it. I turned around to shush whoever was pulling me out of, cinematic gravity. It was Lawrence Tierney. Reservoir Dogs' Lawrence Tierney. Brawling, knife wound surviving, battling bruiser, T-shirted human tank Lawrence Tierney, sitting alone in the dark behind me watching Citizen Kane. I didn't shush him. For about 15 minutes, he sat there talking to the screen as if he were just out of view to the other characters, admonishing Kane, "Don't clap for that squawking broad. She can't sing. Sit down, you chump." "Oh, Jesus, what's he staring at? You gonna cry, fancy man?" He actually said, "You're going to cry, fancy man." It was the best DVD commentary I've ever heard. Suddenly, there was a younger man behind me. His handler, I found out later from Sherman Torgum, the owner, a young kid who'd landed the exhausting, unenviable job of attempting to guide a driverless tractor of a human being like Lawrence Tierney through his remaining days.
Where's his book?
"Larry, how long you been in here? We gotta go." Lawrence said, "We do? Yeah." "Yeah, they're waiting." Lawrence stood up. He considered the screen for one last time. "I never seen this sucker," he said. "It's not half bad." And then he was gone. This was a professional actor, a noir icon who'd end up with a more than 50-year career, and he'd never seen Citizen Kane. But the 15 out-of-context minutes he'd just watched, after missing the first 15, weren't half bad.
Thank you, Patton Oswalt. Yeah. Woo! That's amazing. I really want Lawrence Tierney's handler to write a book, by the way. I think
that year. Oh, can you imagine that?
Let's take some questions from the audience. Do you guys want to just raise your hand and we'll take you one at a time? Sir?
I was just leafing through just before you got down here. I wanted to know what the day was like when you saw Space Jam and then Once Upon a Time.
Exactly. Thank you.
Oh, okay. What day was that?
I don't. It's like 40 pages of this. Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I went and saw. Why did I go see Space Jam? I saw it at the Man's Chinese. It was a bunch of us that went. I think it was a...
How much Tylenol 3 were you on that day?
Yeah, and then I met you to go see the Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yes, we did.
The New Beverly, and we had some... we ingested some stuff. I'll leave it at that. There. I have family.
Leave it there.
Yeah. It was great. And Once Upon a Time in the West, after ingesting some things, is hilarious. That's all I will say. It's a great comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Space Jam was so... It's a bizarre film from what I remember because it's so... Usually films try to be clever with the product placement, and that was one of the first ones where it was... Like, the movie would constantly pull its own emergency brake on its momentum to plop a product down and go, huh? Like it was, it's kind of amazing that ever. It's more surreal than most art films because it's kind of not a movie. It's
That's
just a bunch of. It was like somebody they're like, okay, you got to pick 9 things out of this aisle at the grocery store and make a movie out of them.
I was home one night and Adam Sandler's Blended was on HBO. It's amazing. I've never seen. I'm not a big, but the product placement it's almost artistic the way they drop it in there. It's so
it's artistic and then it's anti-art.
It's so anti-artistic.
It's like that scene that they did in Wayne's World where they're making fun of product placement. Except someone saw that and went, "Well, that worked. We should just do that."
Throw it in there, exactly.
We stop the film and talk about the product.
Can we ask that question? Raise your hand.
Yes,
sir.
All right, you mentioned the Criterion Collection at one point. I think when you were in Amsterdam. Are you still collecting those?
I don't collect them. I do watch them. I mean, I don't really have room to collect. I don't have the space to have DVDs. I rented a house out in Palm Springs, and there was a screening room in the house, and they have all they have is the Criterion Collection. So we were like pulling stuff off of the shelf and watching the
Conversation.
We watched The Conversation, Jimbo, and Friends of Eddie Coyle. It was just amazing in this beautiful screening room.
You used to have a massive DVD collection. It's all gone to Amoeba now. You just
I took them all to Amoeba. They just didn't have room for them anymore. And it just seems like we're moving towards this in 10 years. And I forgot who said this, but our culture is just going to turn to steam, and it's just going to just be up there. You can just kind of pluck it all down. So lugging the actual medium around to watch something on, I think it's going to be kind of silly. You can just be able to, I'll just get it and,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so most addictions have like a bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a film or a moment?
Oh, yes, there was.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what was sad was I had a lot of little moments along the way that were just awful, making a girl that I was going out with at the time walk back to her car alone at 2 a.m. because we were in an all-night horror festival, and I didn't want to miss the beginning of I Married a Monster from Outer Space. It was just like, that was my leaving my child in the car moment to go score heroin. Like, that was that. And then there was the moment when I almost missed a show in Seattle because I went to the Sanctuary Theater on top of Scarecrow Video to watch At Midnight I Will Possess Your Soul, and then I realized I'm at this, and I couldn't get a cab, and I had to talk a stranger into driving me to Swanee's Club to get to my show on time. It was so sad. But the real bottom for me was, it wasn't seeing The Phantom Menace. It was and I talk about this in the book. We're watching. You went and saw it with me, and we're sitting there, and there is yet another scene in a galactic senate where they're arguing over an amendment to add to a trade Bill and my brother said, "This is like watching C-SPAN where everyone's wearing monster masks." It just feels like they had a special fun day, like Friday's Monster Mask Day.
Exactly.
Just put monster masks on and we'll just film it. Just like going, what's? Did I bought a ticket for a Star Wars movie, but
what the hell is this? Yeah.
But it was the weeks afterwards where I realized, oh my God, I've been sitting with my friends just arguing over this movie that we hate for hours on end. And that was his moment of, all I'm doing is consuming. I'm not uploading anything into the world.
So that was his bottom.
That was my bottom.
George Lucas.
George Lucas.
Ma'am.
What was the worst film that you've seen in the theater? Aside maybe from The Phantom Menace.
Oh, I think I know this, but go ahead. I was with you. Go ahead.
Well, hang on.
No.
No, that wasn't even the worst one. No.
Really?
Here's what the worst one was, and this is what's so sad about this movie. And again, it fascinates me. The worst movie I ever saw in a theater was The Wild Wild West. And here's why.
Oh, wow.
But that movie's fascinating because they somehow, it should get some kind of weird award they took the most charming human being on the planet, Will Smith. Whether or not you like his movies, he's a guy who should just be a movie star. And I've met him a couple times, and he's one of those people that you meet where there's just this radiance where you're just like, oh my God, like it's just this advanced human being. Where you're like, hello, I'm sorry, and so I'm sorry I'm even looking at you. I'm so sorry. And they had all this money. They had these, the state-of-the-art special effects, and they made him and the idea of steampunk trains and a giant spider. They made all these wonderful things hateful, and that's so amazing that they pulled that off. And I just remember seeing it because I was at a 4th of July party. This was on the 4th of July, and once again, I left a party to go see a movie.
Wow.
And it was me, and it was in the Valley. So it was me and like 8 other like Valley skate rats sitting there. And you can tell they'd seen Men in Black, they'd seen Independence Day. I like Will Smith, let's go see Will Smith. And even the sunblind, weeded out Valley skate rats, 20 minutes in the movie, were just going, oh, man, there were these awful jokes where like it was all like, hey kids, how about a night of racist and crippled jokes, yay. So it was all these kids like uncomfortable, and I was like, how have they pulled this? This is
how'd they even pitch that thing?
How did they pull? Yeah, and then
how in the world?
And after 20 minutes, a lot of the kids, and I ended up following them. They snuck out to go watch the South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, which I went and saw, and that gave me hope. Like, oh, this is great. Someone made something. But it was just so weird to have those two movies across from each other in a theater at that time. It was just, I don't know. That experience was really stunning to me. So.
Somebody else was holding their hand up over there, I thought. Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Sir. Joe.
Hi.
Oh,
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe. Joe, and then you. Sorry. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Long time listener.
Yeah, Joe, I know who you are. What do you...
Why are you standing in the erotic section over there?
Yeah.
I'm a regular. Speaking of worst movies, could you say anything about a film you saw on September 19th, 1995 called The Deadly Cure?
Yes, I can.
Oh, dear.
Oh, Joe. Okay. Joe, and that's how I met you. Okay. There was a movie at the New Beverly. This is when I saw anything they showed, I went and saw it. So one Sunday afternoon, one Sunday afternoon, they showed a movie called The Deadly Cure. And The Deadly Cure is a movie, it's a local production, made by a local, I believe he is a chiropractor and holistic healer, and on the west side, and judo enthusiast. And it is a movie about how he takes on
it's basically like his game of death.
It's his, yeah. He made this movie. He's a chiropractor and a doctor, and he made this movie where he fights off this cabal of evil. I think they're like literally other doctors who also do kung fu. It is so... It's beyond...
Everyone's played by his co-workers.
Yeah, it's all the people that work in his office. If you can find this movie, I think it was the only time it was ever shown. And so I'm sitting there, and then Joe and
my girlfriend and my friend.
Yes, we're sitting there, and we just can't. We're the only ones in the theater, so we're talking back to the screen because there's not. I mean, there's just hours, not hours, but minutes of just ass grinding silence where nothing is going on, and they just so we're doing stuff, and then we find out later, like then we're laughing because it's so bad, and then we left, and then the Sherman was in the lobby. He was like, the guy who made that was standing in the back of the room.
Oh no!
So we were part of somebody's lowest point, and I always feel bad for that he's this kung fu guy, he's a doctor, and these four just kind of pudgy, like, man, just kind of make it feel like it couldn't be worse. He had every right to just quietly walk down and just kick all of our asses. So, The Deadly Cure, see if you can find it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yes.
Good question. Yes, ma'am.
Fortunately, he can fall back on that medical degree.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I was going to ask, what was the film that you whispered into his ear as the...
Well, there was another one that we saw. It was the movie Patch Adams.
Yeah, we saw it. We saw it on Christmas Day, 1990 something, and it was not.
There was a time. Look, there was a time when a lot of us there was a group of us we would purposely go to see a movie that we thought was going to be bad. So we would go see The Other Sister and Patch Adams, and a whole bunch of us went and saw Battlefield Earth, and just to like, oh my God, this is
just
wow.
Experience.
Yeah. So, but then that's another thing in your 20s is let's go see something because this is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that killed me for that was the remake of was Battlefield Earth. I was just like, Uncle, I can't
give up.
Do this anymore. It was just,
I think mine was Pearl Harbor. When I saw Pearl Harbor with you, it was like
we went and saw Pearl Harbor, and the only way we got through it was like, let's pretend like we're the studio executives who okayed this movie, and they're showing this to us for the first time, and we just have to go, how do we cut?
I think after Pearl Harbor, I went on a TCM binge for like 3 years.
Yeah,
so forget that horrible experience. So, hey, one more question. Say anybody? Oh,
there's a bunch. Hang on.
We'll have two more questions. You back there? Hi, yeah.
Hi. Speaking of horrible movies, what's your opinion of The Room?
The Room is... I take it we've all seen The Room.
That guy
have
here?
we not?
If Tommy was out here,
yeah.
let's
It
check
wouldn't surprise
first.
he just
Let's check
popped up.
Yeah.
Surprise!
He just climbs down from the tree.
You know what The Room is? Oh my God! You know what The Room is? Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
The Room is the deadly cure, but there was the internet to help it catch on. The internet wasn't what it was in 95. If the internet had been around the way it was when The Room came out, the deadly cure would be at midnight screenings, and he would be doing that weird, because Tommy Wiseau, I'm sorry, he made a straight up drama. And I'm sure he did it using drug money or something. I did a short film on one of my DVDs. It's a little hidden thing, where it's this guy, like, if you have money you need to launder, you hide. I'll make a movie with it, and then you can write it off. And I'm basically playing Tommy Wiseau, and it's like movies like The Hallway, The Front Room. It's just all like there's nothing going on. And then when people started seeing it the way we watched The Deadly Cure, he was like, yeah, I meant it to be a meta comedy. Yeah, like,
no,
good save, Tommy. But
no.
It's amazing.
One last question, sir.
Well, we'll two more really quick.
Two more, okay. Two more, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be the last question because I know who you were going to ask. Okay, go ahead.
Hi.
When you think about the guy being in the back of the auditorium, The Deadly Cure, does it take turns being a great and a painful memory?
Oh, yeah. Look, that's the thing about when you get older, a lot of your great memories will also have a lot of pain laced in them. Yeah. Or at least you'll have up until about 10 years ago, that was just a great memory. We were there, and he was a guy. But as you get a little older, you're like, oh, no, that guy he probably really got hurt. Wait a minute. Like, as you get older, the more empathy, the more you realize other points of view. You're like, oh, yeah, that must have really stunk. I mean, but then again, that also helps you enjoy awful situations like watching The Wild Wild West, because in your mind, you're like, what was going through Will Smith's head? Like, they must have known halfway through, like, I've made a horrible mistake. How do we deal with it? How do we make this fun?
Were you with me went to the Orpheum that one Halloween and they showed Plan 9 from Outer Space?
Yes.
And the guy who played Conrad.
That was
Connie.
at the Cinerama Dome.
And what's his name again? I forget his name. He plays the cop in Ed Wood.
Plays.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah, the guy that plays the cop.
He's considered the Gielgud of bad acting. But anyway, he was there live, and he went up to present the film, and they said, "Do you want to do a Q&A?" and take some questions for him, and nobody raised their hand, and we just sort of stood there for like 3 minutes. And okay, let's show the movie. Because what can you ask?
Way to bum people out. Yeah. All right, good, Matt. There you go. Yeah. Wow.
How about that measles at Disneyland? You want to talk about that?
How about that, huh?
Hi, over there. Hi. Oh, yeah, I know who that is.
By the way, this is Victor. Yeah.
Hey.
Victor runs the Vista, dresses up in front of one of the coolest theater owners. Yeah. That's
Victor.
Awesome. One night, I remember I was driving home, and there was some kind of thing, there was some big crime had just happened, and you were in front of the Vista dressed as Batman, and you were there with Klug Gulager, and I was thinking, the city is safe. They're out there. We're good. Victor's got his Batman costume on.
You can be Batman without the audience. So.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So what's up, man?
The question I have is that you have a lot of great stories to tell, obviously, because you went to all these theaters.
Yeah, I did.
So my question to you is that if someone young that is looking up to you and wants to redo what you did, do you think they're going to have the same experience with streaming?
I hope, here's the two things I hope. I hope they get the experience of going to movie theaters the way that I did, and because you experience what other people experience, and it broadens who you are as a person. I remember I saw The English Patient in the Vista. I had read nothing about it. And I remember I walked out, and first I said to you, I went, "Who's president now?" Because that was so long. And then I said that right to you. And then I remember in my mind, I was like, that movie is going to be a bomb. That was terrible. And then it wins a cat. I was like, what is happening? Yeah. So like that experience. So yeah, I hope they get that. Now, if movie theaters horribly go away, which I hope doesn't happen, I hope somebody finds the art in watching, like if someone finds an artistic way to watch movies streaming and bring people together while they do it. Like maybe it's, wow, what if I started like live tweeting a movie that I was streaming? That might work.
You think?
But something like that, like something where
It's on Reddit. On True Film, they have that sort of thing.
Oh, they do.
They get together and watch like classic movies.
And they
no kidding.
Yeah.
Talk about it at the same time. Yeah. So it's not.
I know exactly. Yeah. That's the problem.
If you have an option. You can turn it off probably or turn it back on whenever you want to. Yeah. So you have an option. So.
Well, see, the thing about when you watch movies with people, you can't sit there and shout out stuff unless it's it's like Rocky Horror or The Room. But you can experience very weird unspoken things together. A movie when something has become archaic now, or something is it has like there's the line in Performance when James Fox looks at Mick Jagger and goes, "You're going to be really funny looking when you're 50," and the crowd was like, "Oh yes, that's like those little moments are really great."
Tell the Casablanca story. With that.
Oh, one night, and it's in the book. I went and saw Casablanca for the 900th time at the New Beverly, and it was a Friday night. Another Friday night, and it was raining, and we're all sitting in there. It was pretty packed, and the movie's going, and we're loving it. And that scene when Ilsa's about to get on the plane, and he's telling her like the problems of three people, and right as he starts that speech, the film broke. Right at that moment. So first, that was the first reaction was, "What? Like how? Huh?" And then, in the dark, while they're trying to fix it up, and you could hear them up in the booth, everyone started laughing because I can't believe that broke at the perfect. And then we all spontaneously started whistling as time goes by together.
Yeah.
While we waited, it was so beautiful.
Nice.
And I've said this, and there's a documentary called Out of Print where I say right now, movies are in trouble, and we don't know what the next medium is going to be, but we're just whistling in the dark and waiting to see what the next thing is going to be. That's all we can do right now. So
I think we'll end it there. Let's give a hand for Patton Oswalt. That was beautiful. What a way to end it. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out, everyone.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.